and I will keep that commitment.
That was the president just about an hour or so ago. With the Justice Breyer standing right behind him, making it official that Justice Breyer is going to be leaving the court. And I got to tell you, it must say something about his current political fortunes that so many of the punditry crowd have been saying, "Oh my gosh, this is such a great opportunity for the president. He can really reverse his political fortunes. He can really reset." Really, how much of a bounce will he get? We turn to David Dulio, Director of the Center for Civic Engagement and Political Science Professor at Oakland University. David, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Guy. Thanks for having me.
Let's set aside what the president just said and in terms of what his parameters are going to be. And by the way, I want to ask my listeners to weigh in on this. What do you think of the president's parameters? He says he wants them to be intellectually bright. He wants them to be fair. But he also wants them to be black and female. What do you think about that? 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR. And David, back to you. In general, how much of a bounce do presidents get under normal circumstances from the normal routine of filling a vacancy on the Supreme Court?
Sure. I think the best answer to that, Guy, unfortunately, is it depends. And I think that at first I'd say, normal circumstances these days are kind of out the window based on any number of seemingly crazy political dynamics that are at play right now. But I think that the president does have an opportunity to get a win this summer should this go smoothly. And so there's another it depends, right? It depends on how the confirmation goes in the Senate. I certainly expect that whoever his choice is will get confirmed, but it could be rocky. Republicans could give him some trouble. Certainly, his caucus in the Senate has demonstrated in recent weeks that even they are not totally unified on everything. So if something were to pop up in confirmation, maybe that derails it. But the opportunity is there. Whether or not it goes smoothly, it remains to be seen. And I think it also, we have to consider, the overall place that the president is right now with approval ratings in the low 40s.
Right.
How big of a bump? How much good does that do him, say, in November during the election?
Well, and here's the question. What will inflation be in November? Larry Summers was just on MSNBC with Andrea Mitchell saying he thinks this is going to be, that the Fed's behind the curve on this, that they're going to have to raise interest rates much higher than what they've already planned. And I guess that's the real question here is we know what drove his numbers down. It was ineffectiveness on COVID. It was inflation. It was gaffes in Afghanistan and in foreign policy. Does one Supreme Court vacancy really chase the ill winds on all of that other stuff?
Yeah, I don't think it does, and I think I'd add another layer to that of that litany of things that you went through that indicate where that slide in approval is coming from, and I would say that other layer is some recent polling has shown that Americans don't think that the president or Democrats in Congress are paying attention to issues that matter to them. And, if all the stock is put into one Supreme Court nominee, I think expectations on that bump are not going to be met because, honestly, a Supreme Court nomination, while incredibly important, is pretty far down the list of what most Americans care about, especially when we've got a time of 40-year record inflation.
Well, and it is interesting, though. We did witness in just a couple of years ago that when there was such a partisan attack against Kavanaugh, it certainly motivated the Democratic base, but it also really motivated the Republican base as well, and may have stopped some of the erosion that we saw of the majority. So I guess can these things cancel each other out, even if it does motivate the base?
Well, I think that the president's criteria that you played there in that clip, he's going to stick to those. I don't have any question about that. I think that will be certainly music to the ears of his base. We'll see if Republicans in the Senate take any lessons from that battle over Justice Kavanaugh, that I think certainly did, at the end of the day, electorally hurt Democrats.
Is there greater peril, though, if they really go on the offensive and attack this nominee? Do they risk being labeled both sexist and racist? And we know that that's a card that's pretty dog-eared.
I don't think there's any doubt. I think that in the political context in which we're operating today, any mention of criticism that gets at either of those elements, I think, will be certainly labeled by some as that. I do think that it can really appeal to the base, especially black females who have been perhaps dismayed by the president's, what they see as the president's foot dragging on voting rights. Will it mend the fences, or do you say, well, they were going to be there anyway? I think the mend fences, maybe not, but I think where it will potentially have the biggest effect is maybe getting those voters to re-engage, where they might had this not occurred, they might have been so disillusioned with the president that they just stay home on Election Day 2022. This might get them reinvigorated with the party, with the process, where they might be more motivated to turn out and vote. Of course, the flip side is also true, where if Republicans see a potential nominee on display through Senate hearings, it might just as well motivate them to come out even stronger, and that it could, as you mentioned before, sort of be a wash.
Well, because there is no ideological shift here, I think Republicans have an opportunity to really make the claim going into the midterms, hey, this didn't hurt us this time, folks, but it will next time. You need to give the Senate back to us. And I think that they make that, if they stay away from the delaying tactics and some of the ticky-tack stuff, and just make that the message, I think it can be a real credit to them. I want to quickly get your reaction to the governor's State of the State last night. I was struck by the fact that 3 years ago she was proposing to make Michigan the highest road tax state in the nation, and that last night she's talking about cutting taxes, kitchen table issues. Tell me what you think of that pivot.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. That speech where she talked about really increasing the taxes was after an election. The speech yesterday was before an election. I think that I agree with the others out there who think that this was pretty much a campaign speech, and really one that kicks off her 2022 re-election campaign.
She also hit on an interesting theme, though. She did seem to be pretty magnanimous in sharing credit with the GOP majority in the legislature on a number of things. Some of the infrastructure stuff, the education bill that passed, the idea that we can get things done if we cooperate. How effective will that be? And is that a good place to be?
I think it is for her. I think that that's also a campaign-related theme that you're right. She went back to again and again and again. Independent voters, persuadable voters, moderate voters, however you want to label them, they really respond to that sort of message. I think it's interesting that she went that way. I think it's smart, but it's interesting that she went that way. If the relationship, as you know, between the governor and the legislature in the last 3 years has not been all that great. It's been rocky at best. And it seems like she wants to clear the air on that. She promised at the end of the speech to be open to reaching across the aisle. We'll see if that actually takes place over the next several months.
That we will, and we'll be here to pick it apart when that happens. Okay, David? We look forward to those discussions.
Thanks very much. Have a good afternoon.
I sure will. David Ulia, the director of the Center for Civic Engagement out at Oakland University. We've got some good calls in the queue. We will get to those next. You're on News Talk 760 WJR, where we're discussing the president's parameters, some would say quite narrow parameters, in terms of choosing the next Supreme Court justice. Not to say there aren't some outstanding black female candidates out there, but by narrowing it to race and gender, is he perhaps distorting the tradition of the best and brightest? And let's have that discussion. 1-800-859-0957, 1-800-859-0WJR.